Hi, I'm Asher, and in this video we will be looking at the Pixar Theory. If you like this, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Also, it is important to note that I did not come up with the Pixar Theory. It was created by a man named John Negroni, and this one is mostly influenced by the Super Carlin Brothers version of it, though I have added many of my own elements. Their links are in the description down below. This will be an in-depth overview of the Pixar Theory. Now, an in-depth overview kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but it really just means that we'll be looking at how each individual movie adds to the Pixar Theory individually. All Pixar movies, starting with The Good Dinosaur and ending with Monsters, Inc., build on each other and fit together like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. In the Pixar universe, there is an ongoing struggle, a power struggle, if you will. I call this struggle the MAH struggle, or the MAH struggle. MAH stands for Machines, Animals, Human, which are the three main groups. The MAH struggle is the idea that one of these three groups will always be in power at one time, or they're always trying to gain power. The end goal of this power struggle of the entire Pixar universe, the whole timeline, is basically to bring unity to these three groups. The first movie on this timeline is The Good Dinosaur, and right in the beginning we can see why this universe is just a little different than ours. The asteroid that's supposed to wipe out all of the dinosaurs misses. However, since the dinosaurs' fate is to go extinct, they eventually go extinct, but this time it happens due to bad weather. The Good Dinosaur is the first movie on the Pixar timeline, set about 65 million years ago. And this moment that Arlo and his dad are running through the fields with lightning bugs is pretty much the absolute peak of the animal's dominance in the MAH struggle. And as well, humans are already starting to show their survival skills and long-lasting dominance that literally spans millions of years. Now, fast forward a few million years to 10th century Scotland as we focus on the events of Brave. Brave is the second movie on the Pixar timeline and is the first movie we see magic introduced to us. Here we get our first mention of the key theme throughout this entire timeline: memory. Throughout the whole Pixar timeline, memory is the most important key factor in everything. We get this mention of memory from the Wisps, which are the ghosts or memories of their ancestors long past. When Meredith follows the Wisps, she meets a very interesting character, the witch. But not just any witch, no. This is the witch, the one that makes this entire Pixar theory fold together perfectly. But we'll talk more on that later. Next, we skip ahead a long time to The Incredibles. The Incredibles takes place in the late 1950s. This movie shows us the introductions of the machines into the MAH struggle, when Syndrome creates the AI for the Omnidroid to defeat Mr. Incredible. However, this Omnidroid's AI is so good that it wonders why it has to take orders. And that's the beginning of the end for humans. There is one more important thing that The Incredibles introduces, and that is what happens right here. Jack turns into a monster. This shows us that the humans actually have the potential to become the monsters that are shown in Monsters, Inc. This brings us to our next movie, Incredibles 2. The Incredibles 2 is set immediately after the first one, literally starting at the exact moment the first one ended. In this movie, the screenslaver, aka Evelyn Dever, starts using people's technology against them by hypnotizing them through their screens. She does this to make the point that humanity has become too reliant on their technology, except before she can fully carry out her plan, she gets caught. And the consequences of that are that she now has given the machines a perfectly viable and beautiful plan of how to take over the humans. Alright, let's take a look at the next movie, Toy Story. The way that toys come to life is actually pretty important to this whole theory. Basically, what happens is when a human or human characteristics such as love, emotion, or memory is invested into anything, even inanimate objects such as the toys, the object has the potential to come to life. Basically, human characteristics are required for life in the PCU, which is something we see again in WALL-E. When WALL-E shows human characteristics like love and nostalgia, what appears right next to him? a plant on an otherwise barren planet.
Coincidence? I think not!
I agree with Bernie on that one. But don't worry, I'll be talking more about this later. This movie also shows us the beginnings of By and Large, or B&L, through the batteries in Buzz's bat. The next movie on the timeline is Toy Story's sequel, Toy Story 2. The only thing that this really adds to the Pixar theory is the introduction of Woody's Roundup and Jessie. And this really only helps us place when Boo was a little girl, because we see a Jessie doll on her floor. The seventh movie is a wonderful story about a hallucinating fish who circumnavigates the entire ocean. Yes, I am talking about Finding Nemo. Okay, so maybe it's up for debate whether the events of Finding Nemo are really Marlin's imagination, but this actually shows us some pretty important stuff. This movie gives us a glimpse into what the animals have been doing since the dinosaurs were wiped out millions of years ago. Without human intervention, the animals have developed intelligence and pretty much are starting to rival the humans, though not quite. After Finding Nemo is the absolutely wonderful Finding Dory. This movie gives us our first glimpse at the pollution that is starting to overtake the Earth, and it shows that crabs actually seem to have a natural immunity to this pollution. Set in 2009, the year it was released, Up adds so much to the Pixar theory, it's crazy. And seriously, I feel like Up should get so much more credit than it deserves. I mean, really. 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. What are we doing, people? It needs to be at 105. I mean, we can see By and Large taking over the world. They even try to force Carl out of his house. But of course, he floats right out of their grasp. This movie really highlights what animals could have done had the dinosaurs not been wiped out by crazy weather. When Charles Muntz realizes the dog's potential, he can literally make them speak full sentences intelligently, though not smartly. Okay, you guys, just because they can talk doesn't mean they should. Not even to mention Kevin, who is successfully evading capture by the world's best tracker for 70 years. This movie also gives us another look at memory, as Carl can't let Ellie's memory die, so he literally takes his house, possessions, and everything tangible that reminds him of Ellie's memory, and he literally takes it to the place that they always wanted to go, literally since they met. Next, the 13th and 14th movies in this Pixar universe, Inside Out and Coco. Inside Out is set in 2015 in San Francisco, and Coco is set in 2017 in Mexico. Personally, these two movies are tied for second on my favorite Pixar movie list. First is Up and Ratatouille. Together, they clearly explain why memory is the key to this whole thing. In Inside Out, memories are preserved in the form of orbs, but when Riley forgets about the memories fade away. But Asher, you might say, then why is Bing Bong, Riley's imaginary friend, preserved in her memory as an actual being and not an orb? Good question. Bing Bong is preserved as a being because to Riley's 3-year-old self, Bing Bong was real. To her, he was an actual person, or an actual cat, dolphin, elephant, cotton candy person. Now, in Coco, Miguel visits the land of the dead, where anyone who is still remembered can exist after death. And on El Dia de los Muertos, if their family puts their picture on the ofrenda, the dead can cross over to the land of the living for one night to receive gifts their family has put out for them. If they are forgotten entirely, they will suffer what's called the final death, where they fade away forever. Basically, as long as there is one memory orb somewhere in someone's mind, they can continue to exist. But if all their memory orbs fade away, then they suffer the final death. After Coco, the next movie is going to be Cars, but first, the prologue to WALL-E. That's right, humans leave. In 2100, they hop in their giant spaceships and skedaddle away because of pollution, leaving robots to clean up after them. The WALL-E units clean up the Earth in about 5 years by incinerating all the garbage. However, the leftover radiation and pollutants in the air make the air much too toxic for humans to live in it. Alright, the next movie on our list is Cars. Cars is the 15th movie on the Pixar timeline, set somewhere around 2120 to 2620. And finally, 160 to 660 years after AI is created, the machines take over. In more ways than one. On the Axiom, the AI has either already taken over the humans or will soon. And on Earth, there's literally only machines left. Like, there's no one to oppose them. But the big question is, how have these cars become sentient? And basically what's happening is the cars are living their owners' lives through a carified world as if they're looking through, like, maybe a lens. Next is Cars 2. The movie doesn't bring a whole lot to the table, but there are a few things. First, this movie confirms that the cars can die, which does help in placing that they are indeed living their owners' lives. Second, this movie confirms for us that the cars are in the same world and indeed living their past owners' lives. As you can see, the same monuments and historical buildings that we have, like the exact same ones. Third, this movie reveals that the cars are suffering from an energy crisis, which is a detail that becomes important in Monsters, Inc. Unfortunately, having every being on the planet constantly outputting greenhouse gases is not very good for the environment, especially after they find an enormous oil reserve under North America. Now, let's skip forward 700 years to a once again polluted Earth. The cars have recently died out, and the final Wall-E unit is faithfully carrying out his duty to box all the trash so the humans can return in glorious fashion. This movie really reinforces and even brings us our main argument for the idea that human characteristics such as nostalgia and love are required for life and make it possible for life. When Wall-E shows these characteristics, what appears right next to him? A plant. Meanwhile, on the Axiom, the machines have completely taken over the humans through consumerism and capitalism. The machines are at the height of their short-lived regime. Then Eve comes back positives and the humans have a coup and overthrow the machines and they all return to Earth and grow pizza plants.
You kids are gonna grow all kinds of plants. Vegetable plants, pizza plants.
Now, we come to the 19th movie on this beautiful Pixar timeline, A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life is set just before the turn of the millennium. This movie shows us three important things. One, while there are humans, there are very few left. Two, this movie again demonstrates the animal's intelligence. And three, the most important one, and possibly one of the most important details in the Pixar universe. The Pizza Planet truck is exactly where it was 800 years ago. Okay, maybe not important, but it's cool. We're down to the final three. Next is Onward. The time frame for Onward is a little weird, but by my best reasoning, the events of this main plot happen somewhere between 2400 and 4350. I know that seems like a lot, but it's probably more in the last 1,000 years of that time frame. I'd even go as far to say it's probably more in the last 750 years of that time frame. It's just possible it could have happened in 2400. This movie introduces us to the MM conflict, or the Machines Magic conflict, which really hasn't been added upon by any other movies. I'm hoping Pixar will add on to it in a later movie, but it doesn't really seem like it'll happen. It seems like the MM conflict will pretty much just stay in the one movie. The MM conflict is pretty much the fact that machines are slowly killing off magic. Now, you might be wondering why the inhabitants of Onward's world is pretty much the exact same as Earth. The reason for this is that one of the axioms that lifted off in 2100 actually crash land nosedived into the world of Onward. The inhabitants of Onward were curious about this giant spaceship crash land nosediving straight into their world, so they went to explore it, and the axiom, using its well-known ability to inform others about the Earth, gave them the full rundown. They realized this way of life would be a lot easier than the way they were currently living, given that magic was rare, hard to use, and took lots of time to master. And the crash axiom is found in the place you would least expect. Ravens Point Mountain. That's right. Ravens Point is the crash land nosedive axiom. Now, my reasoning for the whack timeline of Onward is pretty simple. It's the axiom would have left Earth in about 2100, and if it were to crash land in the world of Onward, it would have done so anywhere from 200 years to 1,000 years later. It would have taken the inhabitants of this planet anywhere from 100 to 1,250 years to fully adopt this way of life and mostly forget about magic, but not to the point where they completely forgot about magic. This puts Onward somewhere between 2300 and 4350, although it's probably more like, I don't know, 750 years from 4350. It's like 3,500, 3,600 probably. Next, we time travel forward into 4987 into the wonderful world of Mike and Sully in Monsters University. Monsters University introduces two extremely important things into the Pixar theory. One, the monsters, and two, time travel. Listen, I know it sounds crazy and cliche, but it fits. More on that in just a little bit. So basically what happened was after the axiom returns, the humans repopulated the earth and the animals in them with their combined intelligence morphed into the Mons due to radiation. Now, the Mons overthrew the humans and animals that were left and eventually morphed further into the monsters that we know and love today. This entire process took around 2,000, 3,000 years to completely, fully develop. And finally, last but not least, Monsters, Inc. The culmination of 22 movies, the Mon struggle is finally coming together in perfect unity as the machines, animals, and humans come together. Let me explain. Humans and animals fully come together in unity over the 2,000, 3,000 years while they're evolving into the Mons and overthrowing the humans and animals and becoming the monsters. The machines join this unity in the form of the highest point of technological innovation ever. Time travel. Basically, the monsters are facing a leftover energy crisis from the cars and the humans. They solve this crisis by traveling through time and harvesting human emotions, like scream and laughter. But since this all happened in the past, it isn't human emotions that they're harvesting, it's human memories. Then, Sully accidentally brings back a little girl named Boo. We all love her, but have you ever wondered what happened to her after the events of Monsters, Inc.? Well, I have an answer for you. Basically, when she is brought back to her world in the late 1950s, her dad dies shortly afterward, and she spends the rest of her life looking for the only other father figure she ever had, Sully. She discovers magic and time travel. And can you think of anyone else in this whole universe who can use magic? That's right. Boo is the witch from Brave. Let that sink in. Okay, it may sound crazy, but I promise it makes sense. First off, there is a carving of Sully in the witch's hut. Second, there is a carving of the Pizza Planet truck in the witch's hut. Cars wouldn't have been invented for another 900 to 1,000 years. Third, what do monsters first use to find her? A magic door. What does the witch have? A magic door. Now you might be asking, if she can do magic and time travel all that, why is she in 10th century Scotland? Well, it comes down to the key of this whole thing. Memory. And Pooh's plan is pure genius. Basically what she's doing is, by living in the past, she has memory orbs of Sully in the past, and she's remembering the future, effectively creating a loop so that Sully will never die the final death of Coco. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pixar theory, as told by the Egg Hunters. You guys, is there anything I missed? If so, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for a breakdown of the most underrated movie in all of Pixar, Up. Guys, 98% is not gonna cut it. We need to get to 112. Hey guys, right there, that's the latest video. Oh, and there, that's the video YouTube recommends for you. Special thanks to my friend CalebR123 for this sweet end screen. Make sure to check out his channel. He does some sick animations. His link is in the description down below. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.